What up, people, and welcome to Lanepod, City of Lane's 10 to 15 minutes weekly podcast focused on MBA admissions and experience for motivated Africans. So, whether you're an MBA enthusiast, an applicant, an admit, a student, or an alum, this is the show for you. I'm Samuel, your host, and the today's episode titled The 7 Deadly Assumptions, is inspired by all the current students and alum who continue to remain a part of a community, striving hard to create a more politically and economically inclusive Africa. So let's delve right into the topic today. Assumptions are a mental shortcut to a belief system that we make without necessarily having a complete set of evidence or proof. It's just a way for us to make sense of a complex world filled with all sorts of uncertainties and scenarios that we have no complete control over. No control, actually. However, assumptions can sometimes lead to errors and misunderstanding that can be potentially fatal. One example of a common belief is that the MBA from a top program guarantees instant or life-changing success. But a fatal error that could result from this assumption is you end up finishing your program without a job offer, with a loan to pay back, and a threat of having to return back to your country, which is not and should not be a bad thing in itself, but in many situations it is. That's a fatal error that could result from assumptions that you have not spent sufficient time testing. So that raises the question, what are some of the deadly assumptions that I need to avoid? What are some assumptions that I make that could be completely fatal for me? Well, there are 7 of these. I'll walk you through all these assumptions. I'll list them first of all and then delve into explaining it. Assumption number 1, job reports tell the full story. Assumption number 2, my school career center knows best. Assumption number 3, an invitation to interviews if willing to get in the offer. Assumption number 4, I now belong here. Assumption 5, my MBA network is valuable from day one. And assumption number 6, I can easily pay off the loan. Assumption number 7, the feeling of inadequacy that you always had all these years is just simply going to go away after you get your MBA. Now let's delve into one of this, one after the other. Assumption number 1 says, job reports tell the full story. Now, for those who don't understand what a job report is, every MBA program has this annual report where they state the number of students who are looking for jobs, where they found jobs in, how quickly did they get the job offer, what is the salary mean, by either mean but for the whole class or by different professions. So it's a breakdown of the job results of all the all the students in a particular year. It gives anyone a sense of understanding, like if I go into the school, what are my chances of getting certain job? A cool distribution of the industry that the students who have applied and gotten into the program will typically go into. But I think we rely too heavily on job reports without necessarily asking a lot of questions. So take, for instance, the claims that typically go along this line. 95% of a student who look for a job get an offer within the first 3 months. The problem with this is it's a blanket statement, and people fail to ask, okay, so what constitutes the other 5%? We're constantly hoping for a brighter outlook. It's a bias that we have where we only see we're more optimistic. Maybe pessimists have this bias less, but most people will think, okay, I'm going to be part of the 9 to 5. Like, how bad is it to be part of the 9 to 5? Well, there's a 5%, and in a class of 100, that 5% is what? 5 students. The Africans in the core typically constitute between 5 to 7, even less in many classes. So what are your chances, what are the chances that you fall under the 5% and not the 95%? It's a 50-50 in some cases. So, are you asking the right questions? Do you know what constitutes that 5%? Also, what's a job? Is it working in a school center for entrepreneurship, which, by the way, is not a bad thing if that's what you really want? Or is it working in a job that pays significantly less than what you could have earned or gotten it back home? These are very important questions to ask that you don't just make assumptions on. Another one in this category are averages. Oh my goodness, averages don't tell the full story. They don't. So you're normally going to get averages around income, sign-on bonus. I'll tell you the average income is $150,000. Well, within that average, there's 70. There's also 250, whatever the case may be. I'll give you an example that's a lot more mathematically correct. The average of 1 and 9 is 5. So is 4 and 6. So is 5 and 5. So in a situation where you have a range that is that wide between 1 and 9, are you the one earning the $1? Or do you think you're the one earning the $9? Well, the truth is many people will fall closer to the $1, especially when you see your profile is not as strong as expected. So, where will you fall? Don't make an assumption. Be very realistic about that. Also, other people think you see sign-on bonus, the average sign-on bonus about $30,000. Well, not to bust your bubble, about 50% of that goes into paying taxes. And then you end up with getting, say, a $20K bonus with only $10,000. That's not going to move the needle for the loan that you take. So, the job report does not tell the full story. Ask questions. Assumption number 2. My school career center knows best. So first of all, you need to ask yourself, and I want to answer this question for you. Who are those who work in your school career centers? Career centers are great at opening you up to the world of possibility. They understand the industry, the landscape in some way. They can also help you tailor your profile to where you're trying to go. One thing they're not great at is helping you decide what industry you will succeed at. Sometimes they make assertions that are wrong. I remember when I worked with my career center and they were saying, oh no, Sam, it's not likely you could get offered here and there. Well, I ended up doing the work outside of my career center, getting a job that I was never thought to get. And that's a story and it is common. I don't blame. I love the folks in my career center. They're nice people. They want me to succeed. But you have to think about it. There are few resources handling multiple programs across multiple levels. So, for instance, in my school, it's like a 1 to 100. There's no way my career center advisor is going to remember who I am when she's handling 100. So maybe she does, but I think it's unfair to demand her to remember every single item of my story to be able to draw the conclusion she's drawing. Also, being out of the industry for a while, they're not working in, they're overseeing multiple industries, so they don't have a sense of the nuances that occur within industry. Some do, but not all. Again, it's unfair to place that demand on them to help you make that decision yourself, and you've got to figure that out by going to the source. Assumption 3 is, I remember when I first got my interview invite, I was excited, even while I know this is, I still sometimes have to remind myself that assumption 3 that I make, invitation to interview is equivalent to getting an offer. That's an assumption we all make. We think that once we have that admission offer interview, oh my goodness, we got the job already. Now, I'll tell you this for a fact. Interviewers here are way professional. Oh my goodness, this guy's went to the school of interviewing. You're never going to know. For very few cases you will, but in many cases you're never going to know when you're doing a good job or a bad job. I assure you. You'll find some really tough interviewers where you think, oh God, I messed up, and those are the ones that will call you back. Also, the selection criteria also goes beyond you. You could do interview well with one person, and there are other criteria they're looking for. Someone's a better fit. Someone that came after you was a better fit. and you end up losing that offer. And when you think about private companies, they don't have to explain why they dinged you. That even compounds the troubles and the woes. Again, the fact that you had a great interview does not mean you have the offer. Don't do yourself a great disservice by only applying to one place. And even when you think you did a good job, please keep applying until you get the offer that you're looking for. Assumption number 4. You're now in the MBA program, and in your mind you believe, I now belong here. Hold up 1 second. Nah, you don't. Not yet. Admission does not automatically turn into acceptance. I want to pause here for a moment and let that sink in. The whole excitement about joining the MBA program, moving into a new environment, could be a lot. Yes, I was there. I know what that feeling looks like. Prior to traveling for the MBA program, I'm not sure I had that kind of euphoric experience before. So, I know what you feel like. But admission does not automatically mean acceptance. Not necessarily. It can feel like high school all over again, or secondary school, depending on where you're coming from. There are cliques. People of certain race will stick together. You may not necessarily be openly accepted by other black people, the ones who have been in America for a long time, or the ones who are even traveling out of the continent with you. People quickly look out for themselves. It can be cutthroat at times. So taking coffee, chat, talking does not necessarily mean you're making connections. It does not. The advice here is when you join, temper your expectations of making lifelong friends and all that. No, do not be quick to trust. Step back, watch, look at how the social connections are forming, and listen. Acceptance that you think you have may be superficial. Don't let that deceive you to drop in your guard. Assumption number 5. My MBA network is valuable from day one. No, it's not. Anyone who tells you that, hey, it's all about the value of the network is deceiving you. They haven't told you the whole truth. First of all your classmates are going to be less useful to you as they're trying to navigate their career as well within the first 5 years. Everyone's trying to figure it out. It only gets better as time goes on, and by then, no one remembers you had a coffee chat, 10 years ago. Be a good person, do a great job, but do not over-index for the network. And even your brother network, you still have to develop some kind of relationship with them or belong to certain social classes that they belong to. Again, are they going to take your call? Yes. Does that mean they're going to help you? Not necessarily. And that's why you really need to figure out the network you think, your MBA has to give you. You can build it out somewhere else. You can build it out during your career. Assumption number 6, because we have to close this out quickly, is the assumption that you can easily pay off the loan. First of all, it's not that straightforward. The term of your education loan from Prodigy Finance or Empower could often be between 20 to 25 years. Yes. You could end up paying, you will end up paying between 200 to 300% of what you borrowed. Oh, you thought that it was the 40 grand that you borrowed that you're only going to pay over 10 to 20 to 25 years. Hell no, you're paying a $120,000 extra. That's 3 times the amount of money that you borrowed. Typically, check that. Ask questions. Book a call with any Prodigy Finance representative and they'll tell you what that looks like. So you're not just paying. You've had the concept of interest, right? You're not just paying the principal, you're paying the interest. If you decide to fast track, well, You've got life to live. You've got to pay your rent. You've got to foot your bills. You've got to send money back home. You've got to live life. You want to buy a car. You want to pay mortgage. It's not as straightforward. And we're going to do an episode that deeps dive into it where you find people who are taking students' loan right now or who have done that and are currently paying back. Assumption number 7. The feeling of inadequacy goes away after the MBA program. Hell no, it sticks with you like glue. You're never going to have confidence. I'll tell you that for a fact. You're going to have to learn to operate without confidence. You know why? I'll tell you this. One, first of all, you're coming out of Africa, you don't even remember that you're black. The concept of being black has not yet entered your mind. That's my alarm going off because I need to stop this. It has not yet entered your mind. You still don't know what that looks like, but trust me, when you come here, you realize how black you are. You don't still know certain things. You understand you have flaws. You're trying to cover up for that. Maybe your math is not that great. Maybe your communication skills are still far beyond what is required. You become aware of your inadequacies. And that feeling doesn't go away. As long as you're growing and stretching, you're going to feel inadequate. You've also heard the concept of racism. Sometimes you can't place your hand in it. It's not usually clear cut where you say this is fully racism, but it does happen. So you're going to have to learn to operate without confidence, knowing that the only way you grow is to move out of your comfort zone. So in conclusion, I need you to play this episode over and over again till it sinks into your brain, and think deeply, ask questions amongst the students or the people around you or the people you look up to. Here are the 7 deadly assumptions again. Number 1, know that job reports does not tell the full story. I'm flipping it. It's no longer assumptions, but what you should think. 1, job reports don't tell the full story. Will you survive if you're in the bottom outlier of the job report? Number 2, your school job center does not know what's best for you. You do. It's your job to do. 3, invitation to interview is just that. It's an invitation. It does not mean a job offer. Number 4, it's okay if you don't sense belonging. Give grace to your classmates and understand that life is just what life is. 5, your MBA network is not going to be valuable to you from day one, and it may never be. You can build that elsewhere, but don't over-index for your network. Number 6, you may not be able to pay off that loan easily. And that's okay, so far you know what you're getting into. Don't just think, oh, you're going to clear it out within a year. That does not happen. And number 7, learn to operate without confidence. So thank you very much for listening to this episode. If you would like to ask a question or learn more about Lane, the links, a couple of them in description are in the show note. Or you could Google or just look for us on LinkedIn and Instagram at City of Lane. I'll see you in our next episode.